This is TG Geeks Webcast episode number 16. Hey, we're old enough to drive. Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. This episode, we're trying something a little bit different in our format, so just let us know what you think of it. I'm Keith Lane, your producer here at TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Rackington in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, of course you're sitting right next to me.
Of course I am.
Since it appears we are in March Madness break for most TV shows, we want to give you an update on the shows we are watching. Beware, there may be spoilers if you're not caught up. So first, let's talk about, I guess it was the this season finale of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, that one kind of ended early, which was a bit of a surprise because last season, they were only given a 13-episode run, and this year I think they were not expanded to 22. I think they were expanded to 18, and yet it ended just a month ago.
Yeah, it was really weird. I thought, are we going into March Madness, or is this the mid-season break, or what is going on?
And they'd already had their mid-season break in December, just before the big holidays, and then they came back and only had 5 episodes left.
Yeah, it was really strange.
What did you think of... Okay, everybody loved Season 1. The storytelling was very tight. We had some really great characterizations developments that were going on between Ichabod and Abby. What was your thought of the overall tone of Season 2?
I thought it was really good. The storytelling was still good. It got a little mushy, or won't say mushy, but just kind of a little convoluted when Henry and
the wife?
Yeah. No, Katrina. Yeah. It's been a while. Katrina and Henry and Ichabod and the whole thing there, it got a little weird, and then when we got to the end, obviously, it was even more weird. I don't know whether maybe in the progress of the show, either they decided that Katrina was not worth continuing on with the character, or if they had difficulty with the actress. I haven't heard anything like that. Or, maybe she didn't want to continue, or maybe they're setting this up for her to come back again.
I don't know. It was a very, very, very weird way they thought this all about. I mean, I remember with the finale, everything seemed pretty well defined. Our characters, we knew exactly where they were. You do bring up a very, very good point with the whole Katrina thing, because for a good deal of that second year, she was acting as a mole, but then her loyalty started to kind of come into question, and I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for me. These kinds of stories, while they may be really great on an extremely very short, limited basis, when they get drawn out, I find them to become very tiresome, and the series just is not progressing at a very good clip for my own tastes. And that was one storyline that I didn't really care for. But then, by the time they got to their mid-season break, if we're going to call it that, it seemed like we knew exactly where Katrina's loyalties were. We knew where everybody's loyalties were for a line, and it felt really good. I really liked the relationship we were seeing between Ichabod and Katrina. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then it got kind of muddy again.
Yeah.
And I do know that the ratings were not quite as strong. There was a lot of discussion from fans and a lot of feedback that I guess got back to the studio that maybe they were a little disenchanted, that the stories were not being told quite as tight and the characters were not being developed quite as well as they were in the first season.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they kind of did this really abrupt shift by eliminating, and yeah, big spoiler here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, by getting rid of Henry and Katrina.
Yeah, that was really weird. I think what happened is I think they lost their way in writing for Katrina, and I think the story started to evolve in a different way, that Katrina wasn't useful anymore, because they'd introduced so many other people into so many other characters into the stories with what's his name, the guy, bounty hunter.
Oh, him, yeah.
And
yeah,
also
the ex-boyfriend of Abby's sister.
Yeah, and then Captain, and he came back and made a reappearance, and so I'm not real sure. I still like the show.
I like the show,
I want to
but
see what's it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen next season.
I think you hit on something, and then maybe there were too many people in the show. Maybe that was part of the problem. The cast got to be too big, and everything became somewhat diluted.
Yeah.
And what really helps to sell the show is not just the conflict. I mean, this is a very character-driven series, not just a plot-driven or action-driven. The whole dynamic between Abigail and Ichabod has always been the driving force behind this show. And I think if the series can more focus on the two of them, and please, let's not jump the shark and turn it romantic. I'm begging you, don't do that. That will kill it. No. Keep them just as very, very good friends, and the characterizations, the relationship will then continue to go on strong. But if you focus on them and then just have, like, Captain Irving or Abby's sister kind of a little bit more, just more than on the periphery, I think you then have you have a winning formula for the show.
And I think there was also another thing that they were kind of looking at, because Fox or CW just picks, or was it Fox? Is it Fox? Yeah, Fox.
Fox has that show.
Yeah, they just picked them up for a third season, so I think maybe they went into this last episode and this season, and if they had to say, okay, that's it, it was a perfect ending spot for the series. So now it'll be interesting to see what they do next season, since they've been picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about the next show?
Elementary.
Yeah.
This is a series that Keith and I have said from the beginning that we love a great deal.
It's very smart.
It's an incredibly smart show. In fact, there are some people that would go so far as to say that it's better than the BBC series Sherlock. Be that as it may, I'm very much enamored with this show. I don't think it's worn itself out yet.
Not yet. They continue to explore the dynamic between Holmes and Watson, and I think it's good that they had that kind of diversion where Watson moved out, and now that she's come back to the brownstone, she has her own space in the basement. It's interesting. It's set up a new dynamic.
And one of the things that I really like about this, and I saw this I remember I brought this up to you as we watched it one episode just a few weeks ago, how when Watson first comes into the series, she is there to be the sober companion for Sherlock, because he's now getting off of his addiction to, I believe it was heroin.
Yep.
When Watson comes back, she's now dealing with her own personal issues, and Sherlock was able to sort of return the favor.
He's become her grief companion,
right?
If you will.
Exactly. I mean, because Watson has just lost her boyfriend, even though she was in the process of breaking up with him. Last thing she wanted was for him to die.
Yeah, but it's certainly a traumatic experience.
Yeah, she's been through her own fair share of trauma, and to have Sherlock all of a sudden now be the one who can stand up and say, "I'm here for you now. I think, really... It doesn't level the playing field, but I think it fleshes out the relationship between the two of them. And how, really, as far as the relationship goes between Holmes and Watson, the sum is greater than its parts.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the protege moved on, and I'm glad that I think that she's going to come back, and I think she's going to play a part, and I think that Moriarty's going to play a part in that as well.
It's very possible.
Just my 2 cents worth on where I think the show's going to evolve. Obviously, Moriarty has to come back.
Well, we know that Moriarty's going to come back. We've already heard from her when someone had placed a target on Watson. And Moriarty wasn't about to stand for that because, as far as Moriarty's concerned, no one can touch. No one is allowed, except her, to have any dealings on a predatory basis of Holmes and Watson. Only Moriarty is allowed.
Holmes in particular, and now Watson.
Well, now Watson, yes.
Especially with the note that she sent to Watson. So
yeah,
says I've become basically I've become enamored with you as well. So
well, Watson was a key figure into busting Moriarty's plans.
Yep.
So
she says, well, here's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Somebody that's got some smarts.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely a lot of room for this particular series still.
Absolutely.
And sadly, I mean, I keep hearing that it's on the bubble, and I just pray to the CBS gods that they will actually keep this show around, because it's something that we just so enjoy watching, because the mysteries are very intelligent, but the characters are highly entertaining.
Yep. Okay, so how about now something that actually kind of did its run, and Agents of Carter. Agent Carter. Agent Carter, sorry.
This, wow. Well, to say that we were excited about it
wow.
was an enormous understatement, because of that beautiful one-shot.
Oh, that was brilliant.
That we got originally off the Iron Man 3 disc.
Which kind of begs the question, now that we've seen the whole series, where the hell does that fit in?
Well, yeah, it seems a little weird, because we just recently rewatched that.
And we thought, okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, it takes place 1 year after the end of World War II. At least the one shot does.
And the season, or the
series,
this
little limited series
appears to be something a little bit further.
It appears to be a little bit further along, but we know from the way the one shot ends that Howard Stark calls for Agent Carter to become the co-head of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
yeah.
Which would sort of suggest that whatever stories are being told regarding Peggy Carter with the SSR, I mean, that's supposed to take place before the one shot. I mean, and the showrunners have said the same thing, but the way the story is told, I kind of get the feeling that now we're going to have to do some retconning, which I'm not happy about.
Yeah, because she's just kind of there, and all of a sudden, now Howard Stark was persona non grata, and he is head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, well, I
have to retcon that a little bit.
They're going to have to do some retconning. I can only guess as to what happened, but I would assume that the one shot was so enormously popular that somebody saw dollar signs and thought this would make for a really great series. And they're correct. It does make for a really great series. It did make for a great series. But trying to pigeonhole it into this continuity that's already been established, that's going to be the trick.
Absolutely. Dollar signs, definitely.
Yeah. But at the same time, was it a worthwhile show?
Absolutely. I thought it was brilliant. It was everything I expected it to be.
I found it very entertaining. Obviously, we're still very young in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so all the things that we know that come in later movies, or even earlier movies for that matter, they haven't quite come to fruition yet. I mean, think about the timeline. It kind of makes sense. But we did get some nice little payoffs along the way. I mean, there was always the throwback to Captain America, and I loved in the first and last episodes how they kept doing this callback to the Captain America radio show.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and to watch Peggy Carter's reactions to all of that was highly entertaining. But we got some really interesting little nuggets here, and I think probably the most interesting one was an introduction to the School of Black Widow.
Yes, that was fascinating. I think that was kind of a setup for what's going on, and I still think there should be a Black Widow movie.
Well,
just go on record.
You get no argument for me on that. There needs to be a Black Widow film, and not to go off the chalk and Agent Carter because we will get back to that. But if you're going to talk about Black Widow, let's just say that after the events of Captain America 2, there has to be a Black Widow film. And personally, I would love to see a Black Widow Hawkeye movie simply called Budapest.
There you go.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
That's just me. But back to Agent Carter, I think what makes Peggy Carter so interesting is that she's a very layered character. She has a lot of depth to her. She's just not a two-dimensional comic book person.
Yep.
She's a fully realized individual as far as the cinematic universe goes, and to see such a strong character as we were introduced to in the first Captain America film,
yep.
And to see her get plunked down in this post-World War II society where misogyny and male chauvinism really was at its peak, it's very interesting to see what kind of steps this woman has to take.
Yeah.
And when you look at it from that aspect, it then only begins to make some sort of sense as to why she would then get tagged to become the co-head of S.H.I.E.L.D. alongside Howard Stark.
Yep. And I think that I hope they do another series, maybe for the summer or even next break.
There's talk about it still.
I think it could they could do several more episodes.
Oh, there's definitely.
It hit the ground running.
There is.
What was it? 6 episodes?
It was 8.
8 episodes. I think we could do far more than that, but that's my opinion.
But one of the nice things about the 8 episodes, though, is that they had a very clearly defined beginning, middle, and end.
Yep.
So they were able to pace it at an excellent rate, and I think that's one of the reasons why it kept our interests, because they had a lot of ground to cover. And they had a very limited time to do it.
Yep.
And that's what made that series so strong.
Okay. Now, Forever.
Can I say that I'm in love with this show?
Yes, I love this show. And didn't you say that it was kind of on the bubble? Or
this is another one that's on the bubble. In fact, it's more than on the bubble. I just read a news story on Yahoo, that I think it was Yahoo, where they were talking about all the shows that were on the bubble, and the one that is most vulnerable to go is this particular series, which I find a little peculiar because it has, I'm assuming that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing well enough in the ratings that people are willing to stay tuned on the ABC to follow Forever, which comes right after it. I think it's a highly intelligent show.
It's very, I love the way, well, of course, me being a history buff, the way I am, and with the Sleepy Hollow tie-ins, I love the way Henry pulls out all these obscure historical references.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that for me is the biggest draw for the show. Well, one of the biggest draws.
I think the character dynamics are exciting. I love the cast.
Yes.
The whole relationship between Henry and Jacob, the adopted son,
yes.
played by Judd Hirsch, is such a joy to watch.
It is. It's
and it's not just been this static thing that's been off in the background. I mean, I know that New Amsterdam took that same route, but they never took it any further. Even though that series, it was given a full season run before they canceled it, if I remember correctly. And they never really did anything with the relationship that the lead character had with his adopted son, who of course was now old enough to be his own father. Same thing we're seeing here in Forever. But they've done some very interesting things, like Jacob finding out because he's a refugee of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And to find out what his lineage really is, and surprise, surprise, there is a distant relationship between him and Henry. So it's not just that Henry adopted a young Jacob post World War II, but they're actually family as far as the story universe goes. I mean, to me, those are some just beautiful jewels that help make these characters, they have even more life to them.
Yeah, and I think Judd Hirsch has done a brilliant job of playing this character. And most of the time, Judd Hirsch plays Judd Hirsch, but this time he's actually got some depth to his character.
Yeah,
There's something different other than Judd Hirsch coming through, which is really nice.
And one of the things that really bothered me about New Amsterdam was that our lead character, it felt like that for all the years that he lived, it felt like he didn't learn anything. I mean, he has all this life experience and has nothing to show for it. We don't get that with Henry in Forever. We really get the feeling that he has indeed gathered a lot of life experience, and yet they're able to balance that out with a sense of vulnerability.
Yes.
With his personality, and I find that very oddly refreshing.
Yeah, and of course they've added a new wrinkle to it, and I really hope that it comes back, because I want to see the interaction since they reintroduced Adam again.
Yeah, now we know who Adam is.
Yep.
Adam was finally revealed to us, and I'm not entirely surprised when they introduced the actor who was playing him.
Vern Gorman.
That, yeah.
Yep.
People will more recognize him from the series Torchwood, and he was also in the Guillermo del Toro movie Pacific Rim.
Yep.
So people will know him from there. But when I saw that he was actually going to be in this episode and recognized him, he's sort of a big name character, a big name actor. You just don't plop him in for a little tiny guest role. To see that he got cast as Adam did not necessarily surprise me. And you know they have to bring him back.
Oh, absolutely.
You just don't bring it, because he is essentially now going to be the arch nemesis to Henry. There's no question.
And I think, and they played it well. It's not like every episode. It's
you don't
every
want to milk it.
4 or 5 episodes, he kind of gets in there, and maybe for a couple of episodes. But if you had it every episode, it makes it too muddy.
Yeah.
But I think it's great that they have interjected him as an overall story arc, if you will, as an arch nemesis. The same thing with, like, in Elementary.
Yeah, with Moriarty.
Yeah, exactly. You just dip them in a little bit so that it livens it up and gives you some sense of there's something bigger going on other than their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and it always, by just knowing that the character is there, even though we don't see him, even though he may have no direct or even indirect interaction with the storyline for that particular week, the viewer, as well as Henry, still knows that Adam is out there, and that will always cause you to want to look over your shoulder, and I like that.
Yep. Okay, now, we're going to talk about CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, the Las Vegas version. Wasn't that the finale?
That's what I keep hearing, that the series is now gone.
Yeah, it was an interesting wrap up. It's a perfect place for the series to be done if it's done. What's 13, 14 years?
Oh my God, something like that. I mean, It was one of the longest running. It was the longest running of the CSI shows.
And it's the one that kind of grabbed our attention initially. And we'll just throw a shout out. We originally started watching CSI because of the episode that featured Will Wheaton.
Yeah. So and I want to thank, if anybody out there knows Will, tell him we're extremely grateful. I mean, he kind of hinted at it on his blog that he was going to be in one of his favorite television shows, and I kept kind of keeping my eyes open to see what that was going to be. And then when he finally announced it was going to be CSI, we tuned in to watch it, and we were hooked because it is such it was very bizarre.
He turned in a good performance.
Turned very good performance.
But the show itself was like, oh my God, this is totally weird. I love it.
Totally weird. We were able to completely catch every back episode, and we remained current. We watched all the spin-offs, and the series kind of ended on even with all the cast changes.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about last time. We talked about how Ted Danson came in, how we were a little bit skeptical with him, but he really surprised both of us.
Yes, absolutely. He was brilliant.
Absolutely wonderful.
And he grew into the character, too.
He really grew into the character in a great way, and he showed his enormous intelligence and why he deserves to be running the crime lab. Some of the other characters that were brought into the show, and then, of course, the big story arc they had was the Gig Harbor Killer. Very well played. Enjoyed it a great deal. It had some interesting twists and turns, and it kind of kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time. I found that really exciting, and as you pointed out, the series, at least this last season, ended on a very interesting note with, oh, golly gee, his name went out of my head.
Stokes.
Stokes, yeah, Nick. Nick has now been offered to run the CSI lab in San Diego. Are we looking at a spinoff? Maybe a little bit too soon, because we did have to say goodbye to CSI Miami and CSI New York, and they've already introduced another CSI show, which we knew was going to happen.
The CSI Cyber.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've been watching that. We've watched every episode so far.
3 episodes, I think.
Yep. 3, and it's not on hiatus right now.
So no. In fact, I doubt it will be, because
Yeah.
it premiered at the beginning of March. So I'm willing to bet that they're going to run out to June, is my guess.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the schedule yet.
So what do you think of it?
As with all shows, I know this thing's going to take a little bit of time to grow on me. The story approach is a tiny bit different.
Yeah.
There was almost this sense of sensory overload in the way they were just flashing all this information at your face regarding type of crime that was being committed. They tried to do a lot of interesting digitalization effects and computer screens and programming languages and whatnot to try and really get a sense of what the nature of the crime is.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit blinding in the beginning.
Yeah, although I do like the show. It's going to take some time to find its legs, obviously, but overall I like the show. It is certainly, and I'm going to jump on this one, beat this dead horse again. It's certainly better than Scorpion. I don't see how that show has still managed to stay on the air. I really don't. That first episode just turned me off so badly. It's like, oh my God,
I
really?
know, and I watched another one recently, and I got to the end of it and thought, yeah, it never got any better. Yeah, CSI Cyber is far more intelligent. It has some very good characters. It's nice that they cast Patricia Arquette as the head of Cyber. And she was already cast for the part. I mean, they introduced her
already before she won the Oscar.
Right. I mean, she was introduced in this most last season, I think, early last season.
Yeah.
If not the season before of the Las Vegas CSI. And as we said before, I knew that was a backdoor pilot because every time she walked in, they were playing a different theme from the Who. So that's how I knew. Oh, watch out! This is going to be a new series. And so they already had her in mind for this particular show. And now that she won the Oscar, they can keep, throwing that out there, starring Academy Award winner Patricia Arquette. And it's not the most in-depth character, at least not yet.
Yeah, they haven't fleshed that out. I think they're still trying to figure out. They're trying to do the inner workings of their quote unquote lab. Yeah,
they have started fleshing out some of the characters. One of the I'm not a hacker, but he's one of the computer team.
Yeah.
They gave him a really good story that talked about how his parents were murdered.
Yeah, there's something more there.
Oh, there's definitely going to be more there, especially since the killer just got paroled.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting development happening with him, and I already see development beginning to happen with some of the secondary players in this particular show.
Yeah.
So I think that the series has a lot of potential. They've already started fleshing out the character played by James Vanderbeek.
Yeah.
He's sort of the Nick Stokes of this particular team, if you will. He's a single dad, shares custody with his daughter, and the way they're kind of showing already, they're hinting at how much he's very protective of her. She's a preteen. I mean, I dare say she's like maybe 10. So we're already kind of getting some development there. We haven't gotten a whole lot on Patricia Arquette's character yet, but I dare say
we got a background
a little
why
bit
she
of
got
background.
into it. So
Right.
that's going to play. I think that's going to play into it. She's still looking for that, and that's the overall story arc probably for the rest of this season.
Most likely,
And they may or may not wind that up.
That might take several years.
Yeah, I don't think they should drag it out like Mentalist did and then wean me out on the reveal. But
No,
I think they should. It's certainly a good story arc.
I think there's some very good potential there.
It's what drives her.
Yeah, and I think in the course of the series, it will give the writers an opportunity to more fully flesh out her character, give her the depth, give her the layers that make her more than just a caricature on a crime show, but to actually make her a fully realized person. And it's when you do that you get your viewer loyalty, because now you're not just watching an action show that's got maybe some really awesome high tech. You're now invested in the people.
Yep.
And that's what will hook you.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen in this show.
So it's past the 3 episode test.
Yep.
So we're going to continue watching it. They have to do something pretty awful to make us stop watching.
At this point, they got to do something really dreadfully bad, or just really come up with a massive idiot plot.
Yeah. Well, even those we can get past, but
Well, it's got to be huge. I
Yeah.
mean, it's got to be like Grand Canyon
ongoing.
size.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
got to be something just really unbelievably stupid as an idiot plot.
Yeah.
And while they've kind of done a few, I would not have told that kind of story here and there. Nothing that I would consider to be egregious like they did with Scorpion.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's take a break and hear from our friend Crazy Joe over at Megapodzilla. He just happened to have a birthday this last Saturday.
Happy birthday, Joe!
Happy birthday, Joe.
Hey, this is Crazy Joe. And this is Dave, host of Megapodzilla, the podcast equivalent to a 100-foot radioactive robot lizard, but with horn-rimmed glasses and a pocket protector. That's nerdy. We're on the rampage, laying waste to the geek landscape. We'll talk movies, TV, comics, toys, video games. And sometimes we talk turkey. Don't you mean chicken? That's right. So check us out at megapodzilla.com. We're also available on iTunes and the Zune Marketplace. Aw, yeah.
Okay, welcome back. And now for those shows that don't seem to be breaking yet.
Well, they've already had their breaks.
Yeah, they've already had their breaks.
Already had their breaks.
Don't seem to be breaking for March Madness. Let's put it that
No,
way.
they're not breaking for March Madness because, well, one of them might be, and we'll get to that one in a bit. But as far as the next 3 shows, no, they're not breaking because they're not CBS.
Exactly.
And so let's start off with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And first thing I want to say, they did take a break. They took their mid-season break, but boy, was it smart the way they did it.
Yep.
Because that's when they threw in Agent Carter.
Agents of Carter, yes.
And that kind of created sort of a through storyline, if you will. Because there's some evidence that Coulson's a bit of a history buff. I mean, he was a big Captain America fanatic, as was shown in the first Avengers film. So naturally, he's going to have some kind of interest in what Agent Carter did in the earliest days of S.H.I.E.L.D., and possibly what she even did with the Howling Commandos. So the way they were able to insert Agent Carter during S.H.I.E.L.D.'s break was a brilliant move on ABC's part and showrunner's part. So my hat's off to you. As far as the series goes, well, let's talk about the first half of the series first, and the way it ended. What was your thoughts on that?
Oh, I thought, what the heck is going on here? I was really upset when they killed off.
Matt?
Not
No,
Matt.
Matt.
Oh shoot, Trip. Yeah, that really made me sad.
That made a lot of people sad.
Yeah, especially since he had that connection back to the Howling Commandos, his grandfather.
Yeah.
And it just was sad. And then the what they did with Sky and Reyna, kind of both of them actually went into their capsules or whatever, and did their reemergence on the other side of the break. So it was pretty strange.
It was a little unusual. One thing that I, at first, was a little disturbed with was the relationship dynamic between Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah, and it's
gotten weirder.
It's gotten weirder. Yeah,
it's gotten weirder, but I think there's a plan now.
Yeah, I saw little hints of it in this last episode of, when the other two are having problems now in their relationship, and how there seemed to be they're talking. Fitz and Simmons are talking now, where they really weren't before. It was just kind of a perfunctory yes, and do your job type thing. They only spoke when they had something that they had to speak about, but now they started a conversation.
Yeah, they have started. They're. I don't think they're by any means friends.
No,
not like they were when the series began.
Right.
Even though Fitz was probably harboring a secret love for Simmons that entire time, and it wasn't until it was towards the very end that Simmons began to reciprocate. Too little, too late. What's going on now? I like what they've done. I was very sad when they gave Fitz the brain damage.
Yeah, that was.
I was very, very sad about that. But
he seems to be recovering.
Well, Mac was a huge role.
Yes,
he played a huge role in being able to create some kind of a connection to Fitz.
Which brings us to.
Oh
boy.
Okay. Yeah. What's
going on?
Warning.
Warning.
Yeah. What's going on with
a little drama and
Mac
spoilers.
And Bobby.
Spoiler. 3, 2, 1.
Mac and Bobby. What the devil is going on there?
What the heck?
Now, I was getting initially a little worried about that because we had the whole Hydra, what is Ward Garrett really all about kind of thing. Was he... Is he Hydra? Is he S.H.I.E.L.D.? I mean, we have no idea where Ward really stands on all of this, and we still really don't know. I mean, he's still a huge mystery in all of this.
He's an enigma.
He's an enigma, and even though we have not seen him much since the show came back, we have been promised that, he's still around, and he will return. So I did not want to go down that whole conspiracy, you got moles kind of thing going on. But here we are again. Mac and Bobby. And it started right from where the series comes back, where they're trying to investigate this. They're trying to find this box that Nick Fury gave Coulson at the end of year 1. And that was the box that was going to help establish the new S.H.I.E.L.D. and with Coulson designated as its director. So then we've got of course, we got Mac and Bobby that have been brought on board. Bobby was originally a mole for Hydra, or actually she was a mole for S.H.I.E.L.D. in Hydra. So you got all these characters that have been brought in, and now now Mac and Bobby appear to have their own agenda.
Yeah, and who are they really looking for?
Well, we kind of got an indication about that at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, so I'm waiting. Again. I'm waiting for this week and see what happens. So
yeah,
spoilers.
Let's just say that Edward James Olmos made an appearance, at least in the trailer for the episode that's coming up. I had this really strong feeling that it was going to be Sword. And for people who at least follow the comic books, Sword is an offshoot of S.H.I.E.L.D. And both teams are kind of autonomous, and so that means that neither team gets along very well with the other, but they're working for the same goal. And I was kind of hoping it would have gone down that direction, and it kind of disappointed me in that they didn't. But hey, we still have a number of episodes left. It could change.
they could, instead of the real agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it could become Sword.
It might be.
You know?
It's very possible. I mean, now, wouldn't that be weird if all of a sudden, say, for example, it is decided that Coulson's team becomes Sword?
Oh.
And now you change the title? Maybe at the very end of this year, they stop being S.H.I.E.L.D., they become Sword, and when the series comes back, it's no longer Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it becomes Agents of Sword.
Interesting.
Yeah, that would be far out.
Or, vice versa.
Vice versa, I know, but I kind of like my idea better because I like the idea of doing a title change.
Change it up a little bit.
Let's really mix things up a bit. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Another show we're watching that doesn't seem to be on hiatus, or did yeah, well, they did. They kind of broke here.
They did break.
Yeah, is Gotham.
Yeah.
And wow, how that ended.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man, that went into some strange directions. I don't quite... I can't really say how I'm feeling about this until the series comes back.
Yeah. Well, and it's already become known that Jada Pinkett Smith is not coming back for a second season. So we're seeing apparently the end of Fish Mooney.
Yeah, so, and I knew that Fish Mooney was not going to be coming back.
And
I knew that
I really
early.
Come to like her character a lot.
I have come to like her character. She's very complex. She's not a two-dimensional villain.
No.
Not by any means. I mean, all anybody has to do is sweet talk her, and you can get almost anything out of her so long as you don't cross her.
Yeah, and she's the villain you love to hate.
Right. And I think Jada Pinkett Smith has done a phenomenal job.
Yes, she has been brilliant.
And I will actually be sorry to have her go because she helps to really throw all the loyalties completely into the mix. Who's on whose side? And of course, I mean, even among the quote-unquote bad guys, the loyalties there are very jumbled.
Yeah.
As far as who's on whose side and where the dividing lines are.
Yeah, I think that I would hope that she has become such a popular character because I like her, we both like her, that they might bring her back for cameos in a flashback sort of sequences. That would be nice.
I would hope that they don't entirely get rid of her, but the way her character most recently ended up does not give me a lot of hope.
Does not bode well.
It doesn't bode well, and I don't know how the heck she would even get out of that scenario. Yeah. For those people who don't know, and here it is, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She's on an island!
Yeah.
She is on an island in some demented hospital that harvests organs and body parts.
For whatever reason.
It's really weird.
Dr. Mengele type of thing.
Yeah, she's become the second in command. She managed to assert herself into that position because she had the audacity to pluck out her own eye just to screw with the head doctor there. I find it... I feel kind of bad for her. It was such a very strange situation. I mean, she has to leave Gotham to save her own life. And then she and all her compatriots on the ship that she's on get kidnapped by pirates.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, she wakes up on this island and she's with this group of prisoners who are all going to be harvested.
Yeah.
But once again, she shows that she can be pretty ruthless. I mean, the first person she befriends is a fellow prisoner, and then when she finally achieves some position of power, with as far as what's going on with the hospital, the first person she sacrifices that one friend, and she does it with the understanding. She says, "I told you that some will have to die for others to live," and it's like, oh boy, that's Fish.
So the rest of the characters.
Well, okay, let's start with Bruce.
Yeah.
I did not know what I was going to think about this young Bruce Wayne. But I kind of like what we're seeing here. I mean, he's a kid who's out of his depth.
Yeah.
But that's not stopping him.
No.
He is on a mission because he desperately wants to find out, what happened to his parents, why were they killed. He's already uncovered some kind of a conspiracy that has to deal with the board of directors for Wayne Enterprises.
Yes. And then Alfred's background and the way he's protecting Bruce as well.
Yeah, I like the relationship there. I mean, and here's my one complaint. I love Sean Pertwee, but I don't like the idea of Alfred being this almost Cockney kind of character. It's the way Sean Pertwee sort of portrays him, because I always in past depictions of Alfred the butler, he's always had this sense of, I mean, even for a butler, he's had this sense of aristocracy about him.
Yeah, and you know, just to think about that, it kind of, I said this to you on one episode of what was Alfred really there, given his background? Why was he with the Waynes? Was he a bodyguard? And maybe he's playing this Cockney role, and he will evolve into the aristocratic Alfred that we've all come to know and love.
It could very well be. There's a lot of possibilities there, because there does seem to be some evidence that he was brought in to be Bruce's protector of the sword. Not just
Bruce, but the Wayne.
Well, the whole Wayne Enterprise.
Yeah,
it's very possible. Some of the other characters, and well, I want to touch on three. First, I want to talk about Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, that's weird.
Okay, I'm just going to say, blech. Don't like her. I just don't like her. She is very whiny. She acts like she has absolutely no spine whatsoever. And I keep thinking, is she gonna hook up with Jim Gordon? Gee, I really hope not. I just can't see a strong character like Jim Gordon, who's to become commissioner, actually want to connect with this very weak woman. I mean, I would imagine that he would want to, as far as getting into a relationship, he would have a relationship with someone who is just as equally strong as he is. And they introduced a doctor.
Yeah.
She worked at Arkham Asylum, and the actress has now left my name, but people will recognize her from Firefly. She was in V. She recently was in the Showtime series Homeland.
Yeah, unless Barbara evolves, or they evolve her character. Now we certainly have a long run between Bruce Wayne now at 14 years old versus Batman.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot can happen.
Yeah, and we have Jim Gordon as a detective that has to evolve into the commissioner.
Right.
So it's possible that Barbara evolves, or maybe this Barbara is a ruse, and he meets another Barbara.
Well, but I like the idea of the evolution, because we've seen that with another character that we will be talking about in a different series. We'll be bringing her up shortly. So it's possible that she might be going through an evolution too, and I would certainly hope so, because as for anybody who follows the comic books, everybody knows that Commissioner Gordon, his daughter is also named Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl. So I would like to think that she just doesn't, the young Barbara Gordon just doesn't take her example from her father, but also from a very strong mother.
Yeah.
I would like to see that. And two of the characters that I find highly intriguing. Edward Nygma.
Yes.
Who will become, as people most know, become the Riddler. I like him.
Yeah, he's just quirky.
He's quirky, and I feel kind of bad for the guy.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Feeling sorry for the bad guy.
I suppose. I mean,
but that's also his evolution of he is bullied all the time, and it pushes him into becoming the criminal bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Cobblepot, who is already becoming Penguin. I mean, I find him. He's very sniveling. I mean, I dislike the character for all the same reasons that Fish Mooney hated. And that's not to say that he's being portrayed badly.
No.
I mean, that's the way his character is written.
Oh, he's another one of those villains that you love to hate.
All right. But I do want to, lastly, briefly talk about Joker. We got him. We finally got him. At least we saw the beginnings of him. And the way that was done, I just knew in the back of my head that this kid was going to be Joker, even before now, doggone Facebook, they actually spoiled it. Well, not just on Facebook, but on Twitter. They actually spoiled the fact that we were going to be seeing Joker that night. Well, I'm grateful that I didn't read either of those, because it was more fun for me to figure it out that this guy was going to become the Joker, and they played it. And the kid who played him was scary.
Yes.
I mean, he has all the attributes of a total psychopath.
Yep.
And he got the grin. The pre-Joker grin. I mean, it's just a natural grin, and the way that he looked out through his eyes, and there was just something really cold and calculating and just evil about him. So I like these little Easter eggs that we're getting in the series. And I've said many times before, if we approach it as a crime procedural, it's kind of more easy to digest on an episode-by-episode basis than trying to look at it as an entire comic book series, like we are going to talk about with our next two shows.
So the next one, Flash.
The new
Flash.
series. Wrong Flash.
Oh, sorry.
The new series that a lot of people were really excited about after they introduced the character of Barry Allen in Arrow last year. We finally got to get this show, and pardon the pun. I had some interesting discussions with some of the people that are formerly associated with Slice of Sci-Fi yesterday, and a number of them didn't care for it. But, and again, I apologize for the joke, but I have to say it hit the ground running. Where's your room shot?
Yeah.
Not
that one.
Not that one, no. I thought it was a good singer.
There we go. Oh, a little late on the trigger there.
I found this. I was a little nervous because I did not quite know how to take the idea of Greg Gustin as being Barry Allen. He did strike me as being a little young, but my concerns were completely dashed as I found him to be a very complex character in terms of why he does what he does, the compassion that he feels for his father, who has been unjustly accused for killing his mother. Barry is not just he's not just a comic book character. I mean, there's so much depth to him, and they really started to flesh that out from the very beginning with the feelings that he has for his adopted sister, so to speak, Iris. The relationship that he has with his adopted father, how that initially was a little bit on the antagonistic side, but they've managed to evolve the two of them together so that there's this beautiful relationship between the two of them.
Yeah. In this wrap up of this last episode, oh my God.
Holy moly. This was worthy of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think that they should have, because Flash did take like a 3-week break. And I really felt this episode should have been the cliffhanger for that. Because they hit us with a zinger that just, I mean, I knew that they were going to work, that they already planted the seeds for how they would get out of it, but it was still a bombshell, in my opinion. And that was the big reveal as to who Harrison Wells is.
Yeah.
We all kind of had this suspicion. I mean, we knew that there was more to him than met the eye.
Yeah, but there's a lot more.
Well, there's clearly a lot more, and I just read some interesting little news stories about how they're even going to take his character and develop him even further in some fascinating and exciting ways.
Oh, wow.
I'm very, very much looking forward to the episodes that are coming up in a few weeks. But there was all this big concern as to, is he the Reverse Flash? Is he Eobard Thawne, the comic book villain from the 25th century? why does he like Barry so much? Why is he protective of Barry? The whole charade about why he's in a wheelchair. The whole bit. I mean, there was just layer upon layer of mystery about this guy. And in almost one fell swoop, they peeled virtually all the big ones off.
Yeah. It's almost kind of like in the Doctor Who episode, the City of Death. How he's back in time, and he's trying to fix everything to get to the point where they develop all of this stuff, and you know.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't considered that.
It really, that's
a very interesting idea. How
the Jaggeroth.
Yeah, well, but the idea that this character is now. I mean, obviously he's from the future. We know that because he's got a computer program that allows him to read future events. So we know that he's future. That's given. So maybe he's now back in the past to help engineer the future to work out towards his benefit. I mean, that can really for people who are fascinated with any kind of speculative fiction that deals with time travel, that can open up a massive can of worms.
Yeah.
But the way they're telling the story as it is very exciting.
Although the very last scene, it has created a paradox within a paradox within a paradox.
It's created this awful conundrum, which I'm very, very concerned is. It's more than just the big elephant in the room. And
they may jump the shark with that one.
I'm afraid that they might. That how they're going to weasel their way out of this one, I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. So far, the writing has been highly intelligent with this series, so I'm putting my faith with the showrunners because, I mean, they've done a brilliant job with this show. They've done a brilliant job with the next show we're about to talk about. So I'm going to put my faith that they know what they're doing, and that they're going to develop this really weird situation they left us with, and take it to a logical conclusion. That I mean, it may not be entirely scientifically accurate, but it will be, from a storytelling point of view, at least satisfactory.
At least there won't be a logical concussion.
No.
Okay, so Arrow.
Wow. They continue to surprise me here with where they're taking the big threats. I mean, there's a number of things here that we need to look at. Within the first couple of episodes, they dropped a huge bombshell by killing Sarah.
Yeah. And then setting that whole thing up.
Setting up
to kill Oliver.
It was all part of a huge setup. I mean, there was this big mystery as to who did kill Sarah. We did not know. We had all sorts of theories, and then finally it was revealed as to why. And it was such a nefarious tactic on the part of Malcolm, Dark Archer, just so that it would force Oliver to fight Ra's al Ghul. What was Malcolm thinking? I mean, to me, that smack is more of a desperation move on his part. Hard to say. I think that a lot of people found that slightly controversial, but it did spawn some interesting things. There was the development of Laurel.
Yeah.
And I talked about, going back to Gotham, and Yuki, you mentioned how Major Barbara Gordon is going to go through evolution to becoming a strong character. Well, we've seen that happen with Laurel.
Yeah. Initially, you were like, oh my God, Laurel, she can't be the Black Canary. She's so whiny.
She's very whiny. She's an alcoholic. She's a drug addict. She is spineless. And events have forced her to hit her own personal rock bottom and to literally, I mean, she is crawling out of that emotional hole that she is in. And she doesn't care how many scratches, how many bruises, how many bones that she has to, broken bones she's got to suffer through, and she climbs out of that hole to become this new Black Canary. She is going to do it. She is going to make a difference because it is important to her to honor the memory of her sister. And it's for her, it's also important to need to make a difference for the city, much the same way that Oliver has come to that same realization too. He's gone through his own little emotional journey too, trying to realize why does he do what he's doing. Why is he doing all of this?
Yep. And then the whole setup with Ra's al Ghul wanting him to be his successor. That's weird.
Yeah.
How's that going to wind up?
But in a way, I'm really kind of glad that they had Oliver go down, and yeah, spoilers, people, that they had Oliver go down this little emotional crisis as to, well, am I doing any good? I mean, okay, Detective Black, he hates my guts. Nobody likes me. Whine, whine, whine. I'm not making a difference. So maybe I should take over the League of Assassins because that would give me resources that I couldn't even begin to imagine. And it wasn't until Felicity kind of, gives him a slap in the face and tells him to wake up. This is why you're doing it.
Exactly.
You're not doing it for the fame and the fortune. You're doing this to make a difference. And that then brings me to another character who is also doing things simply because he wishes to make a difference. And I was so hoping they were going to go down this road when they introduced him at the beginning of actually, it was towards the end. I think it was towards the end of last season. It was either the end of last season or the very beginning of this season.
Yeah, and who would that be?
Ray Palmer.
Ray Palmer? Who the hell is he?
He's just some little guy.
Just a little guy.
Just a little guy. He's only the size of an atom. What can I say?
There you go.
Played brilliantly by Brandon Routh.
Yes.
Former Superman actor. I love the fact that they cast him. He is such a fun character. And they've done some really great depth on him as well.
I can't wait to see his suit. They keep hinting at it and hinting at it.
We've seen it once.
Yeah, we've seen it once.
We've seen it once, and we've seen him fly in it. And that was a bit of a shock because for people who follow the comic book, Adam doesn't fly, at least not through artificial means, a la Iron Man. But in this particular suit, he did. I haven't followed any development of the Atom in the New 52, so I don't know if this was actually mirroring what happened in the comic book. I don't know. So, listeners, if you can clarify that for me, I'll be very, very happy. In any event, I like what we've seen with him, and I know that a lot of people very much wanted to see Felicity and Oliver kind of get together. Oliver's a little too emo for my taste. For him, I don't see him working with Felicity and pairing up with Felicity in that particular way. But I love the Felicity Ray Palmer connection.
Yeah, and they may be backing off of that whole Oliver Felicity thing so that Ray and Felicity can hook up together and be more of a team for the potential spinoff.
Well, for potentially what could happen in the spinoff. I think the spinoff it's now a sure thing. And for people who haven't heard, it will feature Brandon Routh as the Atom. It will feature, I cannot think of the actor's name, it now escapes me, but we just recently saw him in several episodes of The Flash. He played Martin Stein, the intellectual part of the Firestorm connection. And also, Captain Cold is supposed to be a regular part of this series, too. So if they're going to turn his character good, I would be very shocked at that. Although I have read that at some point, Captain Cold did actually stop being a villain and became a superhero. So it's possible he may go through his own character reform and become a force of good.
Yeah, that could be a whole season.
It could very well be. So they're already, at least as far as the television shows are going, they're building up their own little mini Justice League minus Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, who they're saving for the big screen. And whether those universes will connect or not is anybody's guess.
Universes collide.
Yeah.
More like
universes stomping on each other. So, but as far as Arrow has been going, we've seen some fascinating directions with him. I love how the series broke with him fighting Ra's al Ghul and then appearing to die. And that caused all sorts of discussion, which was the whole idea. I mean, it's right up there with Who Shot JR.
Exactly.
You know,
Is Oliver really dead?
Is Oliver really dead? Precisely. I mean, and then we see this character kind of drag him off in the snow. You know, you think Oliver, okay, he just got impaled through the chest. Blood comes out of his mouth. When you see that combination, it's never a good thing. And then he gets kicked off a cliff. I'm sorry. I mean, in my opinion, you don't survive it. So there's a lot of discussion as to, well, did Oliver really die? You know, will he be brought back to life through the means of the Lazarus pit, which we finally got to see.
And we got to see how it works too.
Yeah, we got to see how it works.
The healing,
just the healing, how it healed Ra's al Ghul's hand. So, the way they were able to bring Oliver back, I thought was interesting. I definitely want to see more of the characters that were involved in his resurrection.
Yep. Shadow. I mean, not Shadow.
Well,
that was, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to Shadow in just a quick second. Although there's not much to tell. No, it's more like the people that were in Hong Kong who were in charge of his care.
Yeah.
That couple, Seo and his wife. So I definitely want to see more of them and take a more proactive role in what Oliver as the Arrow is going to do in the city.
Yeah, and we still got to find out what happened to their son.
Yeah, we have no idea what happened to him. So there's a lot that's happening with him right now, and you know, Ra's al Ghul is bound and determined to have Oliver take over. He's going to force Oliver's hand to become the head of the League of Assassins, or die at Oliver's hands, one way or the other. And there's a lot of things that could happen there. And then we just recently saw Laurel become friends with Ra's al Ghul's daughter, who is a skilled fighter. With any luck, maybe she could help Laurel develop some more exotic fighting techniques and become the Black Canary that we're hoping for. Because I just don't want to see a woman who flails, you know, wildly and out of control with police batons. I really want to see a skilled fighter that the Black Canary really is, that Sarah gave us, and that Laurel is supposed to become. So with any luck, we might see that actually start to happen towards the end of the season. So I'm very intrigued to see where Arrow's going to go from here on in.
It'll be an interesting ride.
Very interesting ride.
End of the season.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of wrap these TV shows up on a little light note. Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, although I don't know how wide we're going to make it, because they just went down a rather dark road.
Yeah. With, since Howard, the actress that played Howard's mom, had died, and they did a really good tribute.
It was a beautiful tribute, and I gotta hand it to the story writers, because I mean, Big Bang Theory, it's a comedy. There's no question about it. It's not even a situation comedy. It's a comedy, pure and simple. And yet to bring in this very sad event that really happened, to weave it into the story, and yet still maintain that balance of laughter.
Yeah.
That is a very tough thing to do.
It was great when Bernadette took...
she took Sheldon and Leonard out
into the other room and read them the riot act.
And as the voice, as she was going on and on and on, you really start to hear Howard's mom in all of that, which was clearly intended as a great joke.
Yeah.
But I still thought it was handled really beautifully. Every principal actor got to have a really good scene. And everybody knows, Sheldon is he is the poster child for Asperger's syndrome. No question. I mean, this guy he cannot interact with society at all.
It has no filter.
Has none. And yet to actually make him show sympathy towards Howard, and yet not break character. He's still Sheldon. There's no question about it. Was a brilliant move on how he was written, and a brilliant move on how Jim Parsons played the part. It was very touching, and I think one of the characters that gets kind of shortchanged in terms of a lot of the comedy, I think, is Howard. He's sort of written like a one-note character, but they gave that actor a really beautiful scene, a send-off. when he starts to talk about the meals that his mom used to make for him, and how they were, and how he would never have them again. It was so touching, and I just have to really just tip my hat to the entire cast, to the entire crew, for taking a very sad truth, a sad reality to the series, and making it a real thing, and yet still keeping the likeness of the show.
Yeah.
Guys and gals, you did a beautiful job. I loved it.
Yeah, we still love the show.
I still love the show. It's still a lot of fun to watch. It still makes me laugh.
Okay, and to wrap up, how excited are you for the Avengers Age of Ultron?
Wow, we just got our third drop. It was a TV spot. I think it was a third drop. We just got it was a TV spot that was introduced, I think, during the beginning of March Madness. And I'm really happy about it because the first two drops that we got, I mean, it really looks bleak.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, Ultron is a threat. He is one bad robot. Bad robot. He's very, very villainous. He's deadly. There's a reason why Joss Whedon wanted to use him in this new Avengers film, because Ultron is a major threat. In fact, I suppose you could arguably say in the Marvel Universe, the only greater threat that there might be to the universe would possibly be Thanos. But as far as the Earth goes, Ultron is pretty much it. He's like the greatest threat. And every time we've had these first two drops, it's like the Avengers are just getting their butts handed to them on a platter. And now we got a new drop just last week. And what did we see? We saw the Avengers kicking butt and taking names.
No, I think it's going to be interesting. As I've always said, I'm not a comic book. I don't follow the comic books, but I have really become invested in this whole Avengers thing and all of the characters. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, I don't think you have to be a fan of the comic books, because
I'm just saying that. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things that bravo, Kevin Feige. I love what you've been doing. They have been able to literally craft a brand new universe, in addition to Earth 616 that you have in the Marvel comic books. They've been able to actually create their own comic series, give everybody an origin. And if you're not giving them an origin, you're at least giving them a good enough backstory so that we don't need the origin anymore. We understand who they are. We understand what their role is. And except for Black Widow, people, please, and just don't give us Agent Carter's note. There's more to her. There is so much more to that character. You have got to give us her backstory. We're desperate for it. And believe me, I cannot say enough about why she needs to have her own movie. But with the other characters, we're getting their stories. We see them get developed. We see them come together. You don't have to be a big comic book fan to follow this series. Even when you're introduced to some characters that just come out of the blue, like we got with Thanos at the very end of the first Avengers film, and then more in this latest Guardians of the Galaxy. We don't need to know who he is. They're telling us in the movie, this is a major, major bad guy in the cosmos. We got to watch out for him. They're giving us everything we could possibly need to know. And one of the latest things that they did is we actually got, and this is the one thing that everybody is really, really anxious to see, we got a glimpse, just the tiniest, tiniest glimpse of the character Vision.
Yes.
Yes. Jarvis, now fully personified in a body.
They already had Jarvis in Agents of Carter.
Not that Jarvis.
Oh, not that Jarvis.
No, we're talking Tony Stark's Jarvis.
Oh, that.
We're talking the House Jarvis. The House Major Domo. Yes.
The computer. The
computer.
The dunce.
Hardly. Jarvis are around, I'm sure he would correct you about that. He's the one who keeps Tony on track. Him and Pepper.
Yep.
So, what we've seen so far is just really bloody exciting. And we're already getting hints as to where the rest of the Marvel movies are going to go, especially with the upcoming Captain America 3, which I think starts production like any day now. They're going to start working on that. So I'm really excited, and we are a little over a month away from that movie.
Yep.
And yeah, opening night, we're there.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to leave you with just a little shout out to a little funny we found on the internets. And it's a very short YouTube video. Check out the link on our website. What if Iron Man was running Windows?
It got a laugh.
It's a laugh.
It got a huge laugh. We showed it to every single one of our computer friends, and they all just busted a gut laughing.
So check it out. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Remember, you can comment on Facebook or on our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. Thanks for listening. Until next time, from TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. I bid you peace.
Cheers!